What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. I'm Mike Spider Slayer, and we have Cat Comic Uno, and then we have Brant from Only Good Comics. How's it going, guys? Everybody good? It's nice to have all three of us back on. You know, we were all on here first week, and then last week Cat couldn't be on here, but we're back together, all three of us, and we got a good show for you. There's not a lot of comic book news this week. But we will be talking about those X titles. And before we get into that, though, we're going to talk about this week's comic books, which is kind of cool because based off of Labor Day, I didn't get a chance to talk about all of my comic books in my After the Pool series. So this will be the first time I'm discussing everything besides those new #1 issues.
I didn't even talk about any of my books this week. So also, all the comments gone for you? Because I'm looking. There's no comments on my side to pull them out.
I got comments on my side.
I see a few. I mean, there's not a whole lot, but
I might come back in that way. I could see them because I don't see them here. So I will be back. We're going to talk about comics first. So Mike's going to start that.
Yeah. So I think this was a hefty week for comic books. Brant, I know you told me that you had a lot of books this week that was on your pull list. And after I wound up getting all of my books last week, I wound up getting a total of 30 comic books. So even after the ones that I told you, like, oh, I'm not going to get this, I'm not going to get that. Well, I guess supposedly they were on my FOC. So it was like, well, I had, basically no choice but to get them. You know what I'm saying? So, So, big week. And like I said, 30 books. Kat, how many books did you read this week?
I actually had a good amount. Let's see. I had, I think, like 15, which is a lot for me.
Which is a lot for you. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I think I ended up with like 25. I only read like 22 of them. I didn't get quite two, but I read all the ones that we would typically talk about, though.
In these past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of books in general. Even like tomorrow, I have a lot of books. There's just, I guess because of the new year, they're just releasing a lot. I do want to answer this question before we jump in. Sorry if you hear some background noise. Is Kat familiar with Global Comics? They're a digital comic book platform which focuses on independent labels and Kickstarter. She might be able to get her comic exposure on that platform. I have heard it. I've actually had conversations with them. But, not to get into the nitty gritty about it all, but depending on what you're using the platform for, I think it's great for exposure. But I don't want to get into nitty gritty, but we decided not to. But it's a cool platform. But I think with what we're doing, it wasn't as valuable for what we're doing personally on Kickstarter and where we're making money there.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I've created an account, but I haven't gone further than that. I haven't had discussions or anything, but I've heard the same stuff. So,
all right. So, like I said, guys, for the people that are just joining us, we will be talking about those X-Men comic books after we get done talking about this week's comic books. So, like I said, we're going to dive into, let's go to Saga issue 68. Brant's not reading Saga, but Kat and I are. What did you think about this particular issue?
I thought it was another solid issue, but we've had conversations about this before. It's still a little bit of a sluggish book because of how many breaks it takes. I don't think this would be sluggish at all if they didn't have the long hiatuses, but I enjoyed it. I like seeing the background of I've always forgotten Elena. It's Elena, right?
What's that?
Elena. Yeah.
Alana. We saw her background a little bit.
Yeah, Alana's the mom, and Hazel, I think, is the daughter.
I thought that was interesting. I liked seeing Squire's kind of demise happening here. We've been kind of foreshadowing to that. Now we're kind of getting it here. Look, good art, good story, but I do wish it was monthly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think so far the most interesting thing for me is the Squire situation because it's kind of like all the signs of what you don't want to see in your child. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like he's isolated. He's, keeping to himself and literally like now he's learning about like his people and what this war has meant. And I have a feeling that this is going to kind of change the character in the book. And he could do something that these guys could totally regret, having him in their family, you know. So I don't know. We'll see.
We do have a question from Chris. I think their ranks are cover buys. We're gonna be ranking them by the stories. So
Everything, all the
yeah,
stories,
yeah, not really
Yep.
the covers.
Yep.
And then I got a comment says from Rodrigo. It says, Mike, did you get a copy of Standstill? Was that
I haven't heard that one.
Was that the
Yeah.
book that we were talking about last week with the time? Yeah, I never got a copy of it. I actually read it digitally, but I did read it. And we talked about it last week. It was actually a really good story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, all right. So there's Saga. So let's talk about Zatanna Bring Down the House. This is
the first time we're talking about this book. This issue 3 is the first time we're talking about it. Yeah, which is crazy.
Nice.
I mean, we've mentioned it, but we haven't talked about an issue when it came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this issue, I thought this was a little weaker than the other two, but I like this issue. I enjoyed like how kooky it was with the White Rabbit. I thought that was interesting. I also just love this idea of the magic stuff. I really like that she doesn't believe she has this magic, or maybe she does, and she knows the power of it because of what happened to her dad in the past, and they are convincing her otherwise. And I like the build up to that. I think it's a phenomenal book. Again, this is a little bit of a slump compared to the other two, but I think the other two were literally near perfect. So
I actually like this issue. I felt that the last issue was a little bit of a lull for me. I really liked the first issue. Second issue wasn't as strong for me. Third issue, I like this because I like her figuring out like what's going on, and this person trying to get her, the bunny woman, trying to get her to like realize that, hey, you got magic powers, you got to use them, you know. And I like how she's just, I don't know, she's trying to get her to be confident in her magic usage and the whole father situation and whatnot. And I like that the ending kind of left on a pretty cool cliffhanger as well. So it's pretty good. I like it.
The cliffhanger was really strong with this issue.
Yeah.
I really liked that cliffhanger. It was a fun way to leave it. And just like the characterization of that character was dead on from what I know of the character, which I'm not like the biggest Constantine fan, but I am familiar. But yeah, I really like this issue as well. I like the whole series. It's just a fun series, and it's not what I expected going into it. And it's just, I love that it's colorful. You got these giant sound effects and everything, but it's very serious in the things that are happening. Like, you know, she killed her dad and all this stuff. And it's like, you know, deadly violent stuff going on, wars of different magic folk. And it's just like this kind of goopy romp through rabbit holes. Excuse me. I'm sorry, bunny wells, and all that fun stuff. It's just, yeah, it's a really good series that took me by surprise.
Yeah, it feels very indie, and honestly, it's my favorite DC book by far. It's just a fun superhero book. So if you're not reading it, go check it out. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
that's cool. Parker Luck says, let me get that up here. Says, after the show tonight, I'm going to read my copy of Superman vs. Muhammad Ali reprint, which came out the same year as Superman the movie in 1978. I got that reprint as well, and that thing is gigantic, man. It was like $14.99 comic, and I'm like, why is it $14.99? And this thing puts a magazine format to shame. It's like one of those treasury edition books. Those things are huge. So yeah, it's awesome though. It's something different, you know. All right, so yeah, Zatanna, pretty good. I'm not even a magic guy, and this is a fun book, you know. And I like the way they present the artwork. And there's some light humor in this book too that kind of is sprinkled in, and it's not forced. Yeah. And I do like the concept of the beginning of the story, how she's just some like cheap trick magician, you know, doing her tricks at some crappy Las Vegas hotel. I thought that was really awesome.
I bought this issue in Las Vegas, and I kind of forgot it took place in Las Vegas. I was like, oh yeah.
That's fun.
All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'll probably save the X-Men
Okay,
issue
for the
3 talk
later.
for part of the discussion later.
I think that makes sense.
So let's go to number 5. I'll go to Brant first. What was your number 5, Brant?
Sacrificers issue 11 was my number 5. Not the strongest issue of the series, but I kind of like SLOOOW coming face to face with kind of dealing with the fate that all the other like kids have to deal with in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And you still got like this whole plot where this the other pigeon, the older pigeon that works for the king and everything, is like keeping these secrets, and he's the one, it's just, I don't know, it's interesting the way that the story is weaving with those characters like in the know, and how like even though the royals or gods or whatever you want to call them are doing like terrible, awful things, they do have a point that without them doing that, the whole world is going to crap.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a whole like, I don't know, complex situation going on in that world, and it's
it's a
issue,
lot because think about it. They got to look for SLOOOW. They're trying to find her because she is like the replacement for the mom that died.
Right.
And if they don't get her, then the world is basically going to end. And so they like, in order to find her or get her to be casted out, they're doing the whole sacrificer thing again. And what all of those family members are going through, what they just went through, they got to go through it all over again, unexpectedly surprised at it. And there was a lot of emotion there. And it's kind of funny to see like the role reversals in this book now. Like she gets to experience what it's like to be poor and to not have any food and all these other things, So yeah, really good emotion that Rick Remender puts into this comic. The artwork changed for this issue. But nevertheless, this story is still good enough to where you're just like, wow, this is really powerful stuff.
I was bummed that it's like the end of the arc and they're taking like a 3-month break after this. It's like, man, come on.
He's doing a lot.
Sucks.
Yeah. No,
that's what I hate about. That's the only thing I don't like about the independent comic, or especially through Image. It's just like they constantly take these breaks. And like, I get why they do it, because you want to be able to have the same creative team and the same artists as much as possible.
Sure.
So I get it. I understand it. It's just frustrating because a book will have so much momentum and then 3 months goes by and you're just like, wait a second, what happened? So it kind of it loses its punch a little bit, All right. So Kat, what was your number 5?
Mine was Saga. We already talked about it.
All right, cool. What was my number 5? I think I have 5 books here and they're in no particular order.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Void Rivals, issue 12. So
I totally left that off my rankings. So that
did you really?
That totally messed up my whole rankings. Yeah, I don't know how.
I guess Sacrificers is out.
Void Rivals was kind of cool because you just wind up getting to see the two go their kind of like their separate ways. And it just kind of like really sets up things on what's to come in the future when it comes to I guess possibly Transformers in general. You kind of get to see why these races are separated, because when these two went to go say goodbye to each other, it's like they didn't like kiss or anything, but their two like energon ports like clicked together and it awoken something, and this is a spoiler, to where you're led to believe, at least in my eyes, that it's Unicron. And Unicron is like the big bad planet eater for Transformers. Okay.
Yeah. Not a unicorn.
And unicorn, it's not unicorn, it's Unicron. And he's a Transformer too, but you get to see his eyes light up, but you don't quite see him. So you're kind of like, oh shit, is that like really Unicron? And he is just like an earth-shattering machine. Like he could destroy anything. So this is led to believe that maybe that's why these two races have been separated all this time because of that. I thought that was really cool. And then on the very back page of that book, you wind up getting to see the next issue, the cover of the next issue, and it's the G.I. Joe character. What's her name, Brant?
Pythona.
Yeah, from Cobra Law. And she's tied into this whole thing too. So then I saw that cover. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Where is she all in all this? So I was just like all excited now about the next issue. So I really, really like that. So that's why I got my top 5, just because it's setting some things up, man. It's really good.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take any breaks either. That's one that goes all the way through, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I left 2 books off my ranking, so I actually had like 27
man.
books. So.
Oh no.
Jeez. Wow.
Were they in your top 5?
Only one of them. Only about Void Rivals.
Okay.
But yeah.
Was that high up?
It might be.
All right, we'll see.
What did you think of Void Rivals there?
I love the issue. The reveal at the end kind of did it for me, and then obviously going into what's coming up after that gets me excited about the G.I. Joe appearance and everything too. Up to that point, it was a little bit of a slower story. You had that weird moment with that kid, like kind of relating to Proximus, whatever his name is. That was a little odd, and then it was just like talking with Salila and Derek. But again, like you said, them clicking their heads together and their ports touching and Unicron waking up, it was just like, oh my god, that whole part of it just kind of made the issue for me.
That's the Kirkman effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. There's always the payoff there. And I like how he handed her the hand droid. I thought that was kind of cool too.
Yeah.
So
which
overall,
is forbidden, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they're breaking a lot of rules there, and there's going to be consequences. And hey, listen, this could be the thing though that ties the whole universe together. This is if you get the awakening of Unicron, you're going to get the Void Rival universe. You're going to get the G.I. Joes who are on Earth, and then you're going to get the Transformers, and they're all going to be going together. And you could see an event or some kind of something where they're going to have to stop Unicron. That could be a possible future there.
I could totally see that. Yeah, absolutely.
So really cool stuff. Real quick, I just want to say thank you to the 57 viewers that are watching. And like I said, or like we said, we will be talking about the rankings of our X-Men books once we get done talking about these comics. We just talked about our number 5, and we talked about we just got done talking about number 5 and Void Rivals. So with that, we're going to go to, I'll let you guys talk about Gotham City Sirens issue 4.
It was more of the same. It's a fine book that I think could have been a lot bigger and better if they dealt with the team and their chemistry. I described it as this last time. It's a Logan Paul-esque story with energy drinks, and I just think they could have done a little bit more with this. I think Punchline and her relationship with Harley could have been really interesting. And this is double sized for honestly no reason. Art is really good for this book. That's the only thing I can really give it. But I don't think it lives up to its name.
No, I completely agree with you there. I thought the first issue piqued my interest enough. Yeah, because again, it had that whole Westworld kind of vibe. You had these, robotic things that people were hunting and stuff, and it was just weird. And it was like, okay, this could be fun. But then, like you said, it just turned into this big energy drink thing, and Punchline's, escaping at every turn like a cartoon villain, flying away on helicopters and all this stuff. And it turned into a comedic Harley Quinn kind of book, and that's not really what I was looking for. Right, exactly. I agree with you. So not quite what I had hoped it was going to be. Yeah.
All right. Very cool. All right. So we're going to talk about now Amazing Spider-Man issue 56. This felt like an eternity ago since I've read this book. Maybe it's because I just almost exiled it from my brain.
It's a nothing issue for the most part.
It's not a bad issue.
No.
It's just one of those things at this point, since the series is almost ending or his run is ending. I'm at this point where I'm kind of checking out. But this was the issue where we wind up getting, I guess, Peter coming face to face with Tombstone, and they wind up getting into this fight. Tombstone's arrested. Then there's this like intertwined storyline that goes to the point of like where they got to that point in the issue. It was kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? It was like Peter gave, I don't know, somebody this card, and you wind up finding out later on in the book it was actually Jennifer Walters that came and helped out. It was weird. And then you got this story with, wasn't like Paul in it too, where he
I was so confused by that. It was
like, why would you go to his house? Why would you go to your ex-wife / ex-girlfriend's like freaking lover's house? Like, why would you do that to go eat dinner? Like, I don't care, man. It's just, I don't know. It was so dumb. And then what's he doing? Then he's going to go see, like, is it his former self? Is it his future self or his past self? Like, I don't even know exactly what's going on there.
That part should have probably been the main story, because I feel like there were so many things that were skipped. Even the Peter, Paul, MJ thing going on, that could have been interesting if they had a lead up to it. Be like, oh, this is awkward. It's like, don't make it awkward. Something to have a story there besides him just stopping by. But the main story, it goes back to the art.
Brant doesn't even remember. Look, Brant's what?
It's the last story. It's like Paul sees.
He goes to like the scientist of the guy that was Rabin or whatever his freaking name is.
He has a weird haircut.
Yeah, the weird hair guy.
I don't think I read all the book. I think I just read the lead story. You
thought it probably ended.
I think I just read the lead story and just like put it down.
Yeah, there's a second,
because I don't remember any of this. I remember Tombstone in the courtroom.
Yeah, no, because you know what? They broke it apart with the cover
it's
gallery.
The letter. You go to the letters page, and after the letters page, it continues.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I did not read that. I missed.
Yes.
Wow.
That's so funny. It's like half the book too. It's a good chunk of the book.
I don't know what happened, or maybe I just forgot to go back to it. But yeah, I was thinking it ended with the Tombstone stuff. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I think honestly, the secondary stories, there's more to talk about there. Not anything. I think that's too positive.
Maybe it's leading to the demise of Paul.
Maybe. How many issues do we have left? Like 2, I think.
I think it goes to 60, right?
Yeah, so that means we have 4 more issues left. Yeah. It's a weird issue, because I don't think it's as like, look, the last issue was the date that I thought was just horrendous. I really didn't like the date at all. This is like, it's by the numbers type story. Like, it's not bad. It's just like you said, you're kind of checked out at this point. And then for me personally, when you have this art style, I do think this is better for him though. This is like his best stuff. He had some action here. I thought this is better than what we've been getting from him.
You notice that, again, look at every single panel. They're all close up. Super close up, so he doesn't have to, like,
but at least they were in a car.
To draw as much, and he doesn't draw lower extremities. It's always up high, facial expressions. How do you have a fight in a limo like that? That's just so weird and awkward. Like,
there were times where what's Robbie's son's name? Randy? Is that his name?
Yeah.
I always forget his name. There were times Randy looked like a 12-year-old boy with a giant head.
They always do that for some reason. It's also interesting to see. Why are they back?
You see her? Like, her face was like.
Yeah. I know.
She's got no better than Greg Land. I like Greg Land better than.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll read Greg Land for years before.
I like Greg Land a lot better
compared to this. Sorry, that's it's opinions. We got ours.
Yeah,
you got yours. That's cool. It's all subjective. But yeah, it was hard. It's hard to judge the book when you don't like the art, but you're okay with the story and that kind of thing. So it was odd for me, and especially now that I didn't read the whole book, it's like all I got to go on is the Tombstone story. So it's
which didn't have a lot.
Okay.
You got to read like that backup story to see how it kind of all tied together. and then it dives into Paul. So freaking Paul.
For all people saying Greg Land artwork isn't good, I understand his methods are not the most favored, but you go back and look at his cross-gen stuff, that stuff is gorgeous.
Well, even his he did the X-Force issue 1. No, X Factor issue 1 cover for this round of X-Men books.
Yeah.
Look, there's some stuff like his faces are wild, but then at least usually the colors are solid that he works with, the colors that he works with usually. Everything below the face looks pretty solid usually. And anytime they wear a mask, you don't usually have to worry about with Greg Land.
He doesn't trace. He just uses photo reference, and he draws it exact. So it's like those. It just doesn't translate well. Is the problem with Greg Land? But that's my, it's whatever. That's my take on it. But.
Right? Yeah. Oh well, hopefully it's kind of shitty because it's like whenever we got the great artists, the story tends to drop off. And then when we have the better story, guess who's back behind the artwork,
Yeah, that is
Parker
true.
Luck says it's Zeb Wells showing that even he's lost in the Spider-Man arc. I'm more excited about Joe Kelly's eight Deaths of Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
I'm more excited for just reading Ultimate Spider-Man. That's where I'm at now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I can't get excited for anything anymore. I like to anticipate. I like to be like, okay, I'm ready to read this and keep an open mind, but I'm tired of being excited for things.
But that's good though, because then you're really excited when you do get excited.
Yeah,
right?
And honestly, that happened with one of the arcs for this run. I remember there was a really solid arc that we really liked because I had no excitement for it, but I was like, wow, this is better than I expected.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about our number 4. Kat, what was your number 4?
Mine was Spider-Gwen issue 4. I've been having a good time with this one. I thought this was a little bit more angsty than the other issues we've been getting. Yeah, I mean, that's mostly there's not much that happens in this issue. It's just more of the angsty Spider-Gwen. But I liked her interaction with her and Silk. I think she teams up with Scorpion in the end that I thought was interesting enough. So, yeah, solid enough issue. I like the art a lot for this one. Again, I thought it was a little bit grittier. So.
I didn't love this issue. This was my probably least favorite of the run so far.
Mm-hmm. That's under. I will say, yeah, of the run, this wasn't my favorite, but I think there's just been so much bad Spider-Gwen to get moderate Spider-Gwen has been a nice change of pace.
I get that. I totally get that. I don't know. For whatever reason, I was just like, I didn't care for this issue.
That's right. Brant's losing interest just like I did. We're going to hear it soon.
I love the character, and I still don't mind TVA stuff, but they kind of,
man. It's a weird and different story. I don't know.
It is definitely different. But.
All right. So, what was yours, Brant?
So mine was Boyd Rivals now, which would knock Sacrificers out. So my actual number 5 was Grommets. So I could talk about that real quick if y'all want, but it was just more fun, goofy skateboarding stuff. They try to have the house party, and what's his name? I guess Rick. Finds out he's got to move to another town, and he's all upset about it. But Brian is not like listening to him. They're not vibing each other. They're both like all up in their own stuff and not like appreciating the other person's stuff. And so they have this little riff, and then party gets crashed and all that stuff. Just fun. It's fun slice of life. I love this book because it's just something different and something you don't have to think too hard about.
I thought this is the best issue thus far because I think it is a culmination of all those emotions. And I like you were just mentioning the friendship thing I thought was really interesting and real. And I like this book a lot because it just doesn't feel like any other book. Again, slice of life doesn't quite exist in the direct market. So to see a slice of life book of, I know era you guys grew up in, but era I didn't grow up in has been fun. And every single time I'm like, oh, do I need this on my pull list? It's just a slice of life book. Every issue kind of brings you back in. You're like, oh, this is why I need it because it's just a really good character story.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally agree. This was my favorite issue of the bunch. I really got some deep character emotion in this one with when he was, this poor kid, Rick, he's finally settled in. He's made friends. There's a girl that likes him. And like his dad tells him, okay, yeah, we got to move. And that's, that's crappy. You know how that is for a kid when you got to uproot and leave. You know what I'm saying?
Your family sucks too. Your dad and your mom doesn't care. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then it's like the kid finally looks like he's going to score like his first kiss with this girl. And then the high schoolers are going to
of course,
crash this party, of course, you know? So, really good book overall. And the art has such a cool feel to it. I love looking for those 80s Easter eggs in there too. So, really solid book.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. My number 4, this is funny because Brent and I had this conversation last week, was Zombie Oats issue 1.
I saw you guys
put that in
talk
my
about
rankings
that in the chat. Oh no.
How did I miss all these books?
I'm totally
and the last story of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
What's going on this week, man?
So Zombie Oats was hilarious, Kat, because Brant and I were talking. We were going over all the books that we're gonna buy, and I'm like, Zombie Oats? Oh God, no way. This was stupid. Like
we were both like, nah, this is the one Venom War book we're skipping. We're not gonna
we're like, look at that cover, like that's gonna be dumb. And then like I read this book, and like the first like opening 4 pages of it, I'm like totally hooked. I'm like, this is so freaking cool because the Venom symbiotes in this book are just, they don't have any personality. They're just like zombies. And when they attack you, it's like the zombie apocalypse. You become like a zombiote and they're affecting the entire city. But what makes this book so good is Jennifer Walters is in this book. Patsy Walker is in this book. And then you got like the crew from Superior Foes of Spider-Man, like
wow.
Shocker,
who writes this?
Speed Demon.
I don't remember.
Let me check. I forgot. I was totally surprised by this. Scott, Kevin Scott.
Yeah, Kevin Scott. That's right.
And Juan Jose Reap does the artwork, and it looks phenomenal. And you get to see these heroes being overwhelmed by these zombies. We get to see Shocker and like Overdrive and Speed Demon, trying to get this armored car. It's just so much fun. It's so good. And it's like loosely tied into the event. But my gosh, I had such a blast. It was just like, this is the best Venom War book I read out of any Venom War book. So
Is
definitely a nice surprise.
Saying too much? I've only followed some of the Venom War tie-ins, but
this, for me, it blows it all away. Because you don't even have to know what's going on in the Venom War to understand this comic.
That's what I noticed with most of the tie-ins for Venom War, because even Venom War Spider-Man, you didn't really have to read the other stuff.
Yeah,
this was get what's going on.
I was like laughing because I was going to pass this up.
Yeah, and I was too until you messaged us and was like, this was really good. And I was like, oh, well, now I got to check it out because, you mentioned She-Hulk and Hellcat. And it was so good because they were all very much in character. Yeah. And it felt like you were reading like them straight out of a She-Hulk book or a Hellcat book or any of this. They, he got all their characters dead on, and it just was fun and goofy. And like the foes of Spider-Man, their voices were the same as that Nick Spencer book. And it was just, it was so unexpectedly good. Yeah, I completely agree.
Cool. Glad you liked it too.
And now it's my number 6.
Boat says I'm new and want to like Venom so much, but I'm just not into it. I'm not new, and I've been reading Venom for how many years, and I still don't like him unless he's in a Spider-Man book.
Yeah, I would.
We used to have.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. I would skip anything with Venom right now until like the new run gets ready to come out.
We used to have a saying on the show called it was Venom because it was like it would pull you in with the concept and we'd all lose interest like really quickly.
Yeah, ever since Cullen Bunn's run, which was
Cullen Bunn's run.
Yeah, how long ago was it?
When there was Agent Venom, that's when it was
Venomed.
A long time ago.
Yep.
Holy cow.
It just got Venomed. Yeah.
All right.
Donnie Cates on
made it a verb.
Yeah, we did. We made it a verb. But yeah, no, I would love to like Venom again too, but
Same.
again, I like him a little bit more in the main title when he shows up.
Yep.
Yeah, I do too, but I am enjoying Venom more. I went into it cold, knowing a little bit because I had read little bits and pieces here and there. It's just I'm not getting all of them now, but at the beginning I was, and it's fun. It's a fun little event so far.
I've had Count Chocula and Blueberry and all those things. I actually was at Target today and I saw those cereals on the end cap. So
I haven't seen them in a long time.
I saw them at the store the other day, and they had a new one too that I'd never heard of. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was a woman instead of the typical.
I did hear about that one. I'm boring and I watch videos about groceries. And I saw a video about that. I just like knowing what's new in the grocery store. It's fun.
Nothing.
Don't get me started on a Trader Joe video.
Oh God. All right, so let's go. Let's talk about Universal Monsters Frankenstein issue 1. Kat decided to pass on this one.
I haven't read any of the Universal Monster stuff. They're not usually my thing. So
yeah, this was another one I had left off my rankings. I just don't know what's going on this week.
Did you read any books this week, Brent?
I had a lot more than I realized, I guess.
This was a good book. I liked it.
That's one of the first ones I read.
Yeah, like the one of the modern telling of Frankenstein, and we wound up getting to see a couple bodies unburied, and the guy making Frankenstein, and this kid finds out that his father's hands are part of Frankenstein. So it was kind of interesting and kind of different, right?
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. When I read the concept, it was like every issue is going to be like where a different body part that makes up the Frankenstein monster comes from, and telling that story. So I thought that was a really unique way to kind of dive into the history of Frankenstein. So, and yeah, this one was like he's like mourning his dad at his grave, and grave robbers come and dig, literally take his dad right in front of him, and he follows him back to the castle or whatever, and like watches it happen. It's just, and then he seemingly befriends the monster, which is odd too. So it was just, it was pretty good read. I enjoyed it. So, and I think I figured out what happened. I did certain books for Friday First, and these were all on it. And I think they were just like in a different pile. So I forgot all about them. So that's what happened.
Yeah, because that was a lot of books. That was a good handful.
Yeah,
it's like every book I talk about, I'm just like, oh, whoops.
Oh, wait. Whoops. This is actually my number 1.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So then we're going to talk about, this book, Chasm of Cain, Curse of Cain, issue 1. Bro, this is like a CD list movie. This book was something. I mean, the art wasn't bad. No. When the characters had their masks on, but like their faces seemed very simplistic. Like Janine, her name's Janine, right? Like as Hallows Eve, I just hate her with Ben. She needs to be.
I don't like her in general. I know you guys like that miniseries with her.
I like
the
her
miniseries that she's in, though. I think she's a lot better. Like currently, she's in Blood Hunters. I think she's better in.
Oh, she's in another book. I didn't even know that.
And then like in the other series that she's been in, she's been better. Here, she's just like that little yes, Ben. Oh, I love you, Ben. This like type of character, and I just don't like that at all for her.
I don't even think Ben... Go on, Brent.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Kat.
No, I was just going to say that I don't think Ben's that much of an interesting character either. And what's really disappointing is that you think it's going to be a Cain and Ben story. Cain is regurgitating things we already know. And they're like, I am this and this. I'm like, yeah, I know already. Let's see you guys interact. It just honestly convinced me not to get that next issue. And I love Cain. I think he's such a fun character. But I was so bored with this issue.
So with Hallows Eve, it's doesn't make a whole lot of sense either, because here they're robbing people, and in Blood Hunter she's trying to be a hero, and in her miniseries she was trying to be a good person too. It was just when she's with Ben, she's just a completely different person, or she's just a non-character and just kind of there to be there, which is unfortunate. With Ben, I love Ben Riley. I love Ben Riley when Ben Riley is written well, and he hasn't been written well in years and years and years. But this, while I didn't mind the story, I thought it was fine, and I was hoping that like what's going on with Ben was like maybe leading to some kind of redemption later on, that later on I can enjoy him again. But I always hope that for Ben. But like you all said, the Kane and Ben stuff, this was just repetitive from even back in the 90s. These two, they're going down the same roads, same cycles they've been on since they came into contact with each other way back when. So
yeah, and I just think like even with him being Chasm, this villain, he like makes it this big thing where he's like, look, we stole a fucking credit card. Like, really? You stole a credit card with some money on it. That's a great score there, buddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was
someone's gonna be canceling that credit card,
right? I was so pathetic. Like, oh my gosh. And what's the thing with them always being in the sewers? And every Spider-Man book, when we go in the sewers, what do we come across? Come across vermin.
Vermin, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that's what happened. And then you get to see a big, gigantic one at the end of it. It's like, yeah. And the big bad in this one was an Eternal, right? It's like, yes, this is really great. This was not good at all. This was almost what I expected it, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't quite as bad as I expected. I don't know what that says. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's all right though. I mean, you know, can't score on everything, you know, so but this is probably one that I'm not going to continue. This just did not interest me at all.
No, I will be dropping it as well. Are you hearing my dog snore? Because she's right here, just snoring away. Okay, good.
No.
She can stay then.
All right. Well, let's move on to number 3. And again, thank you all the viewers for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. We still have yet to talk about the ranking of the X-Men books. We will get to that as soon as we get done with our top 5 comic books. And we are on number 3 right now. So, Kat, what's your number 3?
Mine was Absolute Power Origins issue 2. This has been a pleasantly surprising mini for me. I think it's the only necessary mini series for Absolute Power and tie-in, because it actually does show you how Amanda Waller gets to the place she is in Absolute Power. I like seeing how vicious she is as a person. I think there's some interesting things she does in this issue to showcase that, including just killing an innocent person. And obviously that's just what she does. It's the origin story of the Suicide Squad. I like it. I know you guys have been loving Absolute Power. I still want to love it. I think it's okay so far, but I like this tie-in. I thought it was pretty good.
I like this tie-in too. I think it's really good. I think it's finally a decent story with Amanda Waller in it, you know, showcasing like her origin and becoming the character that she is and getting together that first Task Force X and why, you know, how the bomb was created at first. So
that was interesting.
All these little elements to it. And I've really enjoyed it a lot. So I'm right there with you. It's good stuff.
And it's a shame that we didn't get to talk about that first issue when it came out, because I was so pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh, wow, I picked this up randomly because there wasn't a lot of books out. And then this is what you give us. Yeah,
it was really good. Both issues were really good. And like she straight up lies to, was it her kid in this issue?
Yeah. I didn't know it was her kid or her niece. I guess it was her kid.
I think
because her husband dies.
Yeah, her daughter. Right.
It's her daughter.
Right. So she's like telling her what she needs to hear. And it's like, yeah, that's Amanda Waller, right? Just the seeds planted. And, you know, she just like tended that garden of her personality from that point forward. And it's just like, man, I mean, you understood in issue 1, like her motivations for all of this. And you kind of empathize with her a little bit. But seeing where it goes, it's like, man, you went down the wrong dark path. But I get it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's really, really interesting story, this one.
Very cool. All right. So, Brant, what was yours?
Mine was Nemesis Rose Gallery, issue 2.
That is mine as well.
Nice.
I know you guys. That's a Mark Millar book, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So he takes a sidekick, basically, which is...
Yes.
interesting for like a super villain to take a sidekick, and he finds this guy in prison and like breaks him out and decides to train him up, and it's really interesting the way that that comes about and all that stuff, and kind of has improved himself, and I forget what he had him do now because it was one of the earlier books I read, but he sent him on some kind of mission.
Yeah, he did. I totally forgot what it was, but
yeah,
just the beginning of this book when he broke him out was hilarious because he set everything up for him to get out of here. And then like he's driving a cop car and he has his sword in his hand and he's chopping, he chops off the cops like
my God,
legs while he's driving. Oh my gosh. He
was like, the cop car's not wide enough to take them all out. I got to use my sword now. Yeah.
Oh my God. He gives him a suit, has guns and stuff like that. And I don't remember exactly what the mission was, but then we come across, I guess, some other characters at the end of this that might take out Nemesis, that is planning on to take out Nemesis.
Yeah. And it was just interesting seeing them on the rooftop, and he's like, "How do I look?" And he's like, you look cool, man." And it's just like this evil, Batman and Robin stand on.
Yeah, that's exactly what it reminds you of.
Yeah,
really good. Love that book, man. All right, so let's move on now to we talked about Gromit, so let's talk about Green Arrow issue 15, another Absolute Power tie-in. I really love this book. This one was like action-packed. Like you get to see the Arrow family come and try to take Dr. Was it Ivo to the island. So they try to go on that plane and they try to take out that plane and everything. And they wind up getting captured after it. And then Ollie finds out that he's kind of like being double crossed and he goes to them at the end. So it was just like, it was a very quick read. It was like maybe 5-minute read.
It's very actiony.
But still, I really liked it. It was good.
I liked it too. I like the Green Arrow family stuff, I think, more than anything. Again, the Absolute Power stuff is not the thing I'm as interested in as just seeing them all team up. And it was a pretty solid issue. I'm going to be sad to see, obviously, Joshua Williamson leave soon because I don't know what this book's going to look like without him. But I think it's been a pretty solid book.
Yeah, I totally agree. Nothing else I could add to any of that. I agree with all of it. So
cool. All right. So let's see. Let's talk about our number 2. So I'm going to go with my number 2 first this time. I'm going to talk about it. Something is Killing the Children. This is issue 40. This is the last issue of, if you want to call it, the year 1 Erica Slaughter, where you're going to learn more about the character and all the things in the trials and tribulations that she's went through. And in this issue, we get to see her struggle with the loss of is it Jessica Slaughter, which was the person that mentored her, was the person that brought her up. She was like the mother figure. And it's crazy how it kind of fits with today's society with guns and how guns played into the whole role of why this particular situation happened. Really, really good book. The last 2 issues have been really almost tearjerkers. And it's like, man, oh man, now we've really gotten into the psyche of this character. And when the new story arc launches again, I think we're going to be really invested in her. I can't wait for the next story for this. This is a freaking phenomenal comic book. You want to talk about character growth and character development, adding layers to a character who you once thought was like this big bad freaking killer, and you really find out she was just this little girl that was brought up in this horrible situation, so definitely a recommend read in my opinion here.
Nice.
So that was my number 2. We'll go with Kat, who had to step out for a second. What was your number 2?
Had to go pee. Mine is the tab issue 2. Issue 30.
Too.
For all the reasons we talked about before.
Very
cool.
nice.
You made it number 2 as well.
All right.
Although maybe there's other books added. That's number 5, but
No, that is actually number 2.
Yeah, right. All right, so now, man, you guys are still reading Rogue Sun, so you guys can talk about that.
I almost dropped it, but then I didn't, and it's because it's not a bad book. I enjoy it, but I also don't love it. It's just kind of there for me, and I was like, you know what, I love Ryan, so I want to continue reading it. And there's elements I like about it. So there, I like the family stuff. Honestly, the stuff that wasn't Rogue Sun in this issue is my favorite. So again, it's kind of a middle of the road book for me, and this issue continues to do that.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I just kind of love the whole massive verse, so I just like get it all because I'm addicted to it, I guess. I don't know. But I feel the same way about Rogue Sun. It's like I love all the supporting character stuff, whether it's the family or the friends at school. I love that part of it. Not so much when we get into because mostly the stories of kind of lean towards like the supernatural threats and traveling to other dimensions and all this stuff, and it seems like we're going right back to that next issue. So that part of it I'm not in love with, but I don't know. I just it's not. There are other books that I keep hanging on to that I like less than this. So that's all I can say.
No, I feel you on that. That's why I'm like, it's an easy book that comes out. It's why not? Yeah.
Right.
See it through.
All right. Very cool. All right. Let's talk about Ultimate X-Men issue 6, and this will lead into the real X-Men talk, guys. So
this actually, we were talking about Rogue Sun. This is a book I think I figured I don't want anymore. It's not a bad book. Every issue I'm like, wow, I want to see more, but this is not for me. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this really isn't for me, and I should drop it.
Yeah, I mean, I can only understand it's not going to be for everybody. I think this is a type of book where it's very manga style, it's very slow burn style. But you are getting introduced to more characters. They're now calling themselves mutants. They're now actually calling themselves X-Men. They're now actually doing, I guess they're going to be doing battle of this version of the Shadow King. And then at the end of this issue, you get to see a mutant that's on the X, kind of like Wolverine would be. Who could this mysterious mutant be? Right? And this one looks like it's a male. So could they have the newest male joining the team here? So there is a bunch of different characters now joining like this team, but it's just, yes, it's very much of a slow burn. It's like high school X-Men type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So it was a decent issue for me. I wouldn't say that this is my favorite read, but it does keep me intrigued because I want to see where it goes. So, and that's that. That's all I have to say.
Right. You don't read this one, right?
I dropped it after issue 2.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same thing, so understandable.
Yeah,
just more. There's more characters now, so that's what it is. All right, so let's dive into it. We talked about those comic books. Oh no, we
didn't do our number one.
Number one. We got to get to number one.
Sorry, guys. My number one was Grommets.
Mine too.
Okay. Mine was not. Mine's going to surprise you. It was Aliens versus Avengers.
I couldn't even put it.
Aliens.
I liked it. I liked this book. Really good book, but it's so expensive for what it is. But I really enjoyed it.
I agree. I mean, it is expensive, and it just, I don't know. It was so much better than I expected. I'm not an Aliens fan. I don't like the franchise. I never pick up anything. I flipped through it. I'm like, okay, that looks pretty solid. And it was a really good, like, post-apocalyptic, futuristic story where the aliens have basically taken over half the universe. And it was The Last Stand, and it was Valeria Richards was part of this Last Stand. And it just, I don't know, it was just really good. It was much better than I expected. So
absolutely, it was a good book.
Beautiful art too.
It was literally like my number 6. But I just couldn't put it in there because it's just like no 40-page comic book is worth $8. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying?
And I agree. It just, I think because it surprised me so much, I had to like give it high marks.
Yeah, I totally get you there. I mean, because it was a lot better. I felt like this was better written than Wolverine Revenge.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I agree.
what I
Completely.
wanted in Wolverine Revenge is what I wanted in is what I got in Aliens. Like,
That
I
came out
wanted
last
to see,
week, right? That came
what's
out.
that?
Wolverine Revenge came out last week.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I go.
Last
Yeah.
week, yeah.
What I got in that book is what I wanted in Wolverine's Revenge. I wanted a story that you could attach the world to the reader, where you feel something. Like, I didn't feel anything after reading Wolverine Revenge. This I did,
Yeah.
So, all right. So here we go. Now we're going to talk about X-Men. So
And I believe there's only 6 titles out right now. I'm going to double check that just to see. Beyond the Ashes, just to give you a rundown of what the titles there are out and what's coming out. X-Men, let's see, because I saw on Wikipedia, From the Ashes, not Beyond the Ashes. So the titles are X-Men, Phoenix, NYX, X-Force, Avengers they're including for some reason, Uncanny X-Men, X-Factor, Exceptional X-Men, which hasn't come out, Wolverine has not come out, Storm has not come out, Psylocke has not come out, and Lord Kinney has not come out. So those are ones we're waiting for. But all of the X teams have pretty much come out, except Exceptional X-Men's coming out tomorrow.
Right.
Right.
I'm not including Avengers in that either.
No.
I'm
not either.
I don't think we should. I will say out of the ones that are coming out, the ones that maybe could have made my list is Exceptional X-Men and Dazzler. Those are books I'm very excited for, but for the most part, I think this is going to be a pretty definite list.
Right.
They're probably including it because of Storm.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like it's not a mutant book, so I don't.
I agree.
Yeah,
right. I agree. Yeah.
So yes, we definitely got all these books that have come out. The speculation, the hype for all this stuff is finally gone and went for the most part, and we've now gotten a couple of issues of like what X-Men and X-Force and NYX. Right. And so now I think we can get kind of a judge on these main books on what we think of them. Right. First off, I want to say when it comes to the artwork in all the books, I think all the artwork, personally, for me, the artwork is pretty solid through them all.
Yeah, there's no book that has bad art.
I think I've seen better artwork from Ryan Stegman in the past when it comes to certain books. But he's not even going to be on the book the long term. So we're going to get another artist on there after, I think, the initial story arc here.
His art is very crowded for the book. I never feel like I know what's going on.
Yeah, I think he does better with like less characters, right, than the team. But it's a very bright and vibrant book. But here's how I rank mine. Okay. So first off, I'm not going to rank the books that obviously haven't come out yet. Exceptional X-Men comes out tomorrow. So I don't have high hopes for this book. That's just,
you were spoiling it already. I saw on Twitter people are talking about what happened and showing pages. I'm like, don't do
really?
that.
Yeah, there was people in the comments earlier talking about it.
Wow.
They didn't say spoil anything, but they were talking about it.
Right. I just don't have high hopes for this. I know, hopefully it blows me away. But
dude, you can just put Kitty and Emma on a book, and I'm gonna read it forever. You just
need
to put Kitty and Emma on a book.
Oh yeah, I know. You could just sit there and stand there, and you'll be like, "This is number one."
They're there.
Yeah. So we don't know what's going on there yet. Phoenix, the first issue for me was actually a pretty solid book, and then the second issue came out, and I'm like, "Shit, I'm dropping this," because this book just.
So is that your lowest ranking book?
Yeah, it's my number. Okay. Yeah, I have 6 here, and that's my lowest ranked book because I don't see this book going anywhere long term. That's my opinion on that one. Number 5. Go ahead.
Oh, go on. Unless do you want to go down your whole list? But don't go down your whole list unless we want to do. I think actually that'd be better. You talk about Phoenix, we do our 6s, and then we'll go around.
Okay.
Phoenix. Okay. I don't like space stuff, so I think it's a fine book. I think you like Jean. It's your exceptional X-Men. Go for it. But I remember I read that first issue being like, wow, I'm sure this is great for someone, but this is not for me. So it's not my number 6 though. My number, well, Brant, you say your Phoenix thoughts and then I'll go my number 6.
Okay. Mike and I kind of talked about it a little bit last week. Phoenix, I feel the same way. Like, I really liked that first issue, but after reading issue 2, I was at the same place. I was like, yeah, I think I'm dropping this. And it went a completely different direction than it seemed like it was going to go. And now it feels like it's this cosmic guest star of the month kind of story. And that's just not what I'm into with Jean Grey. It just doesn't seem like the story that fits her for my taste. So, yeah.
And it's just like one of those things where she's Phoenix and then she's like, oh, this is so wearing on me and blah, blah, blah. Where back in the day, and I always hate bringing up past stuff, but it is true. She's a superhero. You just got to freaking deal with it. You're Phoenix. You're a cosmic entity. Like, stop bitching and complaining about it. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to complain about it, then go home. Don't be Phoenix. Don't be up there. You know what I'm saying? And then in the last issue too, with her interactions with Corsair from the Starjammers it just seemed awkward and out of place and just kind of filler for me. And I just I'm like, if you're stalling already in a second issue, what are you going to have like 4 or 5 issues from now? Right.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I felt the same way.
So my next book, and I'm dropping this one as well, after reading issue 2, is going to be NYX. I just don't find this one interesting. It looks like they're going to be exploring the different characters of the team in each issue for right now, because the last one we got was really about Ms. Marvel. This one was more about a Laura story in this particular issue. And I just didn't find that interesting. And then we're going to get the next character, and I've totally forgot which character that is. But
I thought the art was really good for this book, but it's so interesting because it's so specific. It's so geared to people who read NYX, but also not. And it's like, I mean, I read NYX, I love it, but how many people have read NYX? They're mentioning Kitten, who's a character so old at this point. Yeah, I want to stick through with it, but I also don't love it. I want to like it a lot more than I do.
Like, I don't want to read it just because Laura is in it. She's going to be having her own series. So I rather just drop this one and read the book that she's in, right? So that's my opinion on that one. The next, go ahead.
I was going to say the first issue, I felt the same way. It's like, I didn't really love it. I didn't think it lived up to like the hype with these characters involved. And but this issue where it was solely focusing on Laura, I liked it better. And I liked the narrative of it better. I liked her inner monologue better. But you can't count on that going forward. But at the same time, it gave me a little bit more hope in the series going forward. So for now, I'm going to stick with it, but it's going to be an issue by issue basis for me.
Same. I don't know how long it'll last, but I'll pick up the next issue.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 4 then will be this book is on the fence, and this is X-Force. I think that this X-Force book actually was a little bit better for me than the first issue. This is kind of like old school comics. It's like the adventure of the week. We have these fractures that are happening, and we get to see the X-Force team going to the danger at hand, and they have to solve the problem. The thing is this is so very point A to point B for the first 2 issues, where you're kind of like, is this really going to be the series, or is there going to be something more? And are you okay with this type of series? Because again, this reminds me of more old school storytelling.
I dropped it after issue 1. I was kind of bored with it, so I don't know what happened after that.
Yeah, see, I have the opposite reaction to you, Mike. I liked issue 1 a lot. This issue, it made me like on the fence about it,
right?
Because I don't like that adventure of the week kind of formula, and that just, I don't know. It feels very procedural to me, and I don't love procedural storytelling, especially
in comics. It almost doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. So
Right.
it's like the Smallville, freak of the week kind
Yeah.
of thing going on. So
I mean, I feel like the last issue was similar because they had an
Mhm.
adventure and they had to stop it. The
Right.
difference was it was the formation of the team, and you had
Yeah.
Deadpool in there, you know. So
Yeah. And also I didn't like realize at that time that it was going to be like, okay, this issue we're doing this adventure, this issue we're
right,
doing that. You know what I mean? I thought it was going to be like this continuous kind of thing.
yeah, and that's why this one's on the fence because
Yeah.
I want to see what issue 3 has to offer, and if it's going to be a very similar tone, then I'm probably going to drop it at that point, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So these next 3 books are probably the ones that I'm going to keep. This is X-Men. I'm going to continue to probably pull this. I think this book has potential. I'm just not sure where it quite is yet. I do like some of the aspects of this book, but there's some of the points where I don't like it. I do like how it tries to cross over with the other X books, and I think that's what we saw in this most recent issue that was this week,
Hmm.
where we got to see the guy that's in charge of X Factor talk with Scott Summers, and I thought that was a pretty intense moment. And
And
then
there's a scene where they're like the Rogue scene where they're like,
Yeah.
we
He
are getting
referenced Rogue
X-Men
and
issue
Gambit and all.
2. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then at the end of that issue, you wind up getting to see Scott, which looks like he's having an anxiety attack.
Hmm.
So because I think he's suffering from PTSD from the
His
Krakoa stuff
life.
when he had his eyes sewed shut and all that other stuff. So,
Right.
I think this book definitely has potential. I don't think it's like, oh my God, this is an awesome book. But this goes back to the Jed McKay style of writing where it takes some time to develop, but once he gets going, it tends to be a good story.
I think there's
Right.
parts that feel very jumbled. Like once Quentin Quire is there and Ileana, I'm like, where should they fit with this
Mhm.
Cyclops story? But I like honestly the setting. I like Alaska. I think that's really interesting. I like, the thing that people don't really like, where they're like, oh, they're back to being pariahs, but there's still this idea of Krakoa being, they're like, we did do Krakoa. They're still kind of like scared of them in that regard. And I want to see what these human characters are doing. Like, there's this police officer. Is she a bad person? Is she not? So, yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely potential in the book, but I don't love it yet. Obviously, it wasn't
Not,
in any of our top fives this week. So,
it's not, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not quite there, right? So,
what do
Yeah.
all
you
right.
think, Brent,
I
for that one?
Go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's like it's just on the cusp, though. There is a whole lot of potential for the book. I like um, how Cyclops is just kind of like shouldering all of that and kind of in those quiet moments having that breakdown, basically. But there's also that strength of him when he's talking to the guy. And he's like, you don't know what we're capable of, and if you mess with us, we're going to show you that kind of thing. And yeah, there's I don't know there, and I like the connectivity with the other X books as well. I agree that I hope over time we see like where Kid Omega, where Magneto, even where Ileana kind of fit in, have their roles, kind of tell their stories as well. But we'll see. But for now, it's pretty decent.
Right. All right. Then my number 2 is going to be Uncanny X-Men. I think the first issue of this emotionally was pretty solid. I'm kind of on the fence about this whole Endling situation and these new mutants that were introduced at the end of the issue. I stressed this last time. I was like, I would have been good without having those new mutants that were introduced. I know that was like the cliffhanger, the hook, or whatever, but I love the characters that were in that book. Like, that was my favorite book when it came to just the X-Men themselves. Like, you got Wolverine, you got Rogue, you got Gambit, those interactions, that emotional punch that this book offered. And I really enjoyed it. So I'm hoping that this book continues on that momentum and that upswing. And I think, Gail Simone has has the potential to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same boat for you. I do like the cliffhanger. That's the only thing I do disagree with. I want to see what these new mutants are all about, but I love the art. I like Gail's storytelling here. And this had more potential for me because it was just than X-Men. I know a lot of people in the comments have been really liking X-Men, but I like the idea that there's just 3 characters talking to each other. It did not feel like, oh, what is Ileana doing here? It felt like a deconstruction of a team book, and that's the team books I enjoy more, because sometimes especially with Marvel, you get 10,000 team books, and all it is, look at these random characters hanging out, and that didn't feel like that here.
Yeah, and you also had 3 characters that have been through a lot together, and you could feel that. You could feel that they've literally been to war together, and this is just kind of them dealing with the next chapter of their lives together, and they know each other so well, and you got that immediately. And I like the cliffhanger as well, and I want to see what happens with these characters. I would be happy if like only one of them stuck around eventually, and filled out the team. But we'll see what happens. I have faith in Gel. So
cool. And then my personal favorite X book was X Factor. We haven't gotten a second issue yet, but that first issue was it. To me, it was next level compared to all of the other X books for me. It was well balanced. It had good action. You introduced the team. It kind of reminded me of this reality show that went wrong, and all this guy cared for was these ratings, but they actually worked for the government. It was just overall, it was a great issue. And at the end of it, most of them died. You get introduced to which I think is going to be the real team going forward. And I want to see if this book does continue to have like a more serious tone, a more comedic tone. Like, where's it actually going to go after
Mark
this?
Russell is really, really good at telling very satirical stories with a heavy punchline on commentary. Like, I'll never say that he's like the most serious writer, but when he's telling a joke, you'll be like, oh, wait, that joke actually meant something totally different. And as you guys know, one of my favorite titles is Second Coming. And everything I love about Second Coming is in this book so far. And Bob Quinn's art is just, great. And I never thought I would like a book like this. That's also like, I've never been a fan of X Factor ever. So just to be like, wow, I could get into this title is already cool.
Yeah, I've said it before about Mark Russell's writing. Either, it is, he always has some message that he weaves into his books. And sometimes it's heavier handed. And those times I don't really get into it. But with this one, it's very subtle, I feel. And when I like his writing, I really like his writing. You know what I mean? He's one of those kind of writers for me. And this one I really like. So, and I'm really interested to see like how the real team, kind of does where the other one failed and kind of where it goes from here. There's a lot of questions up in the air, and I'm like really eager to read that second issue at this point. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are my personal rankings, and we discussed all the books. So now I want to hear your guys' rankings. So, Kat, what's yours?
My number 6 is X-Force because I dropped it and I didn't like it. Phoenix, again, that was more of a personal preference thing. I think it's a fine title. It's just not for me. Number 4 is NYX. I like the concept of that book because of what I know from it, but I have not been impressed by it thus far. And then honestly, I have the same top 3. So number 3 is X-Men, number 2 is Uncanny X-Men, and number 1 is X Factor.
Okay. Cool. Our lists are very similar. All 3 of ours, I think. So my number 6 is Phoenix because I dropped it. So same reason, different book. X-Force is my next one for the reasons I mentioned before. It's not for me. NYX is my number 4. So X-Force was number 5. Sorry, I got my numbers wrong. But NYX is my number 4. On the fence with it, but second issue is better for me. Number 3 is X-Men. Number 2 is Uncanny X-Men. Number 1 is X Factor. So our top 3
I love that we have same top 3, and which is interesting because I think most people would say Uncanny X-Men is their favorite book, but I think just for our style of storytelling, we're just like, we've been reading comics forever, so it's really nice to get something so different that I personally, I feel like I haven't read in a long time.
Yeah. So, and I'll be curious what this next, Exceptional X-Men is, because this was like the 3rd major title, right? So, because you had Uncanny X-Men, and then Exceptional X-Men were the big 3, and all the other ones were the lower tier books. So, and it's funny how X Factor was the one that is our favorite so far.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right. So that was the X-Men talk. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So now we're going to go into the most anticipated.
Yeah. And a lot of repeat books on this list as well. So it probably won't take us that long. We'll start with Exceptional X-Men. Just it's on mine and Kat's. It's my number 2, Kat's number 1. So we'll talk about that real quick first to keep with the X-Men stuff. Kind of already allude to it.
Standing around. Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. That's my motivation too. I love them together. So it's like, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, who cares? It's a movie.
And the art should be good, at least from what I see. So like I'm sure that from what I'm seeing, it sounds like there's gonna be a lot of conversation. So we'll sure to talk about that next week.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
I don't know what the conversation is. I just know people are having a conversation.
I do think it's interesting that Kate's working as a bartender, but secretly putting together a team. So I mean, that's
in her origin story. Like she's done that before. She's been a bartender before. We've seen that, and we've seen her put teams together. So I'm excited to see how much they pull from her history.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Mike, you're number 3.
It's
Gunslinger Spawn.
Yep. Yeah. Like usual. I mean, really great series. Gunslinger is been so like destroyed at this point. They had to put him in a medically induced coma. And now he is kind of like reliving things in his head. So maybe I guess we get to see maybe some origin stories or stuff like that. Again, he's not able to heal because I told you guys these there's dead zones that exist limit the healing factor of the spawns. So once that gets fixed, he'll be able to heal. But right now, he's just like a normal human being like you and I. So great book, awesome artwork. Always will recommend Spawn. Definitely one of the best prices in comics today for sure.
Nice. And Kat, your number 3 is that a?
It's a Scott Snyder.
Scott Snyder. Okay, that's what I was going to say. It's a Scott Snyder book. Okay, Duck and Cover issue 1.
It's the American Vampire creative team talking about history. So that's why I'm excited for it.
Right up your alley, yeah.
Yeah, it's totally up my alley. And I think it's only 4 issues. I think Scott Snyder tends to do pretty well with the tighter runs. So I'm excited just as an American Vampire fan.
Yeah. Is this Dark Horse? Is that who's doing this?
But I think it was originally like the Comixology stuff. So I think this came out a billion years ago, but I'm reading it for the first time.
Nice. All right, so my number 3 is Minor Arcana number 1.
I'm picking that up.
Book.
Yeah,
I'm getting that too.
There's a lot of indie books coming out this whole month, but this week in particular, a lot of issue ones.
Right. Yeah, so this one's about the daughter of like a town psychic who she thinks is a fraud, and then finds out maybe not so much. So that's interesting, and I think Jeff's doing the art on this one as well.
Yeah,
it looks like it. Yeah.
All right. So Uncanny Valley is your next one, Kat, and that's the penultimate issue.
I know, which I'm curious to see where it's gonna go because it almost feels like it should be an ongoing. I think there's another volume. I think we did talk about that. There's gonna be another volume. But I love this book. I think it's a really cool meta textual series with a lot of fun characters. And if you like Saturday morning cartoons, check it out. I think it's a great series.
Yeah, it's a really fun one. This almost made my list. And then Absolute Power number 3, Mike, is your number 2. We are both we're both enjoying it, and Kat's
I'm reading it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't think it. I'm reading it. I think that says a lot about an event book for me.
I mean, I like it. I think it's really good. I think this is probably the best DC event that they've had in quite some time. And
Beast World, honestly, I really enjoyed Beast World. So
but this is like an overall event. This is not just like Beast World event. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like. This feels like there's something at stake. It feels like the heroes have their backs against the wall. It's like they lose their powers. They're scattered all over the place in different ends of the DC universe. The Fortress of Solitude's been destroyed. Amanda Waller's got the upper hand. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on in this comic book that I like. And I like seeing that that loss that they're going through right now, you know?
Yeah, this feels like scope-wise like Avengers Disassembled. Now, whether it'll have
Oh,
that
okay.
big of an effect going forward,
I mean, it's supposed to.
that's the kind of vibe it gives me. So and I'm really enjoying it. So, all right, and the last book we got to talk about is mine and Mike's number one, which is Rook Exodus issue
Which
number
was supposed
5.
to come out this week, I saw, and I guess they
Yes.
pushed it a week. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Wow,
we were
very
both
excited.
very disappointed. Yeah, I know Mike was like, "Oh, are you serious?" I told him that it was delayed, and he's like, "Are you serious? That ruins my whole week."
It does, because we would have had grommets. I had Something Killing the
Mhm.
Children, Nemesis, and then I would have had,
Guys, save the love.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
but now we get Rook Exodus this
Sure.
week. It's a book that I will preach for people that, love like a science fiction type of book. If you like Jeff Johns, if you like great artwork, you just want to be taken to a different planet. Like, this is the book, man. And this is one of those books too, where it's like, where do I begin with a new comic book series? We're only on issue 5 with this. Like, pick this book up. It is so good. I love each and every issue.
Yeah, it's got elements of sci-fi, fantasy, post-apocalyptic. I mean, it's got character building. It's got drama. It's got action. Maybe even a little bit of love. Who knows? But it's got everything. So it's really good. But that's it. That's all the books we got to talk about for most anticipated. And
They'll have news
that's all
next
we
week.
got.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, maybe we'll actually have some news. So it like makes up for that one show where we had like 2 weeks or a month worth of news, where we had like 50 news pieces, right? But that's why we brought you the X-Men talk this week. So we were able to do that. That was a really good good conversation. And in the comments, maybe post show, if you want to leave your rankings for the your favorite X-Men books, go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
So
and thank
with
you
that
to the
being
ones that
said,
did.
yeah. So with that being said, I think we're going to sign off for the night. So I want to thank all you guys for watching. We had a great viewership. We appreciate all your comments, guys. And as always, make sure you subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0 and Comic Book Weekly. And happy new comic book day. Great stuff here, guys. Hopefully all 3 of us will be here next week. It's always kind of a little bit of a mystery, but we'll do our best to be here. And again, thank you so much for watching. And guys, have a great new comic book day, and we'll see you next week.